Can you hear me? Telepathy. Switch.
Let's dance.
moving. Check. Can you hear me now? My microphone normally works.
Systems active. All systems active.
Maybe now it's working. Yeah, hey guys, what's up? Thanks for the compliment. That's a very sweet compliment. I really appreciate it, especially if you're not really listening. I'm making pizza. This is what happened. Wait, I'll switch to the camera. Then you guys can see me. Maybe better. But yeah, I can make another track also. I can put another track. Bum bum bum. One sec. This should work. Camera, what's going on with you? I will put a track. I will try to get my camera fixed, or put another camera. I have many cameras. But why is it not working as well? Anyway, I appreciate the compliment. And I will work more in a second, but I really didn't eat for a very long time. So, camera, what is it? It's probably running in broadcast. Okay, give me just a second. Or it doesn't really matter that much. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, but yeah. Is it working here? Okay. I know what's up. My camera needs a restart. Yeah, the track that I showed you before was Evernoise. It's not Parandroid, it's like another project. And yeah, this track, Forgotten Tribes, is super amazing in my opinion. Very cool track. Camera. This one time when I'm going live, the camera's doing something weird. Okay, let's turn it on. I have an EP that I put online. Now, first of all, there's We Are One. This track is pretty cool. I can put it in while I make a pizza, for sure. Newest version. This is the thing. Not always the newest version is necessarily the best version. It can happen that the old one is... Okay, now my camera should work. At least theoretically. We Are One. Well, I'm just gonna play the last version. Yeah, bro. I always have fresh dough. I make my own pizza. Like sometimes it happens that I, get one that is frozen, but normally I always have dough, and I do it like that. I became literally like a little bit of a pro over time. From just like making pizza. I really love it. Okay, I need to restart broadcast and I just switched Windows and I switched from Windows 10 to Windows 11. Great, there's like a couple of things there. Bottoming, of course, there is some stability improvements and stuff.
to the brain. How much do you want to know? Ayahuasca is like a key. How much do you want to know? Because you have a deep connection. It's like God hit you with a mirror.
Yeah, I totally need to make that pizza, but I'm gonna let the stream running, and I might even put another track. Let's see. We Are One. We Are One is running. Forgotten Tribes. Legend. Yeah, exactly. Imaginarium. People seem to like that track a lot. Imaginarium, it's like a seed. So it's like a very early idea, actually. But it has soul. And that's like the most best thing to have is soul. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna put that track. I'm just gonna leave We Are One, and I'm coming back in just a second. And or I could put a podcast. That is also something that I could do. Like, there's actually a very nice podcast that I recorded, 10 episodes. Yeah, actually, let me put that quickly. Let's see if you guys like that. I can put episode 3. Yep. So let's see if I can get this going. Video, where are you? I think it makes more sense if I make a new one. Media source. You know what? I'm just gonna show you my EP. Or a track of my EP. I showed you already We Are One. So, and I showed you Forgotten Tribes. I can show you For Shakti. Probably anyway. I guess you guys are already gone. But I'm working on it. My brain is a little bit fried. Episode Psytrance. Where are you? EP3 Psytrance.
In Psytrance, when you start listening to a track, you go on an adventure. It's wordless music, and people just like the beat, and they dance together, they jump together,
Yes,
and
like
they
you
become
guys can
one
check
in
it
the
out.
stage. It's amazing to be part of it. It's amazing to watch it.
Yeah.
It's
And
amazing.
I like
It
the pizza,
unites us.
and then I'm
It
hungry.
unites us.
Exactly.
And
Thanks for hanging out.
yeah, it's above all of our
By the
little
way, I have
differences.
this for
It's
you.
Yeah,
amazing.
and it felt like going to the future, going to the pinnacle of human experience. It was like that, I swear to God.
When all of those people come together, then they meet each other and they become much stronger and they share with each other and
Yeah.
then they go back and spread it everywhere, and it's
Yes.
so beautiful to see such gatherings, really.
It's basically humanity healing itself by itself. It's a form of nature.
Yeah, enjoy the programming. A little bit about the podcast. It's something I did, something I produced. This is the first episode. The first episode is a bit like roughly produced, like over the 10 episodes that we recorded. I think after episode 4 we had like proper microphones and shit. So like, but we just started with what we had, and therefore like the sound quality, you know, I mastered it, but it's not as good as the episodes that come in the future. And then the other crazy thing is that I, like, unfortunately, a hard drive with 8 terabyte, destroyed itself or stopped working. And I lost basically huge chunks of my creative and human past, because it was all on those archives, including a couple of episodes from The Sacred in Between. Anyway, without further ado, this is a little teaser for The Sacred in Between, a podcast from myself, and I had Eliad with me for the first episode, and we're a great team, but unfortunately he disappeared. Anyway, you enjoy.
And they dance together, they jump together, and they become one in the stage. It's amazing to be part of it. It's amazing to watch it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It unites us. It unites us.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's above all of our little differences.
Yeah, and it felt like going to the future, going to the pinnacle of human experience. It was like that, I swear to God.
When all of those people come together, then they meet each other, and they become much stronger, and they share with each other, and then they go back and spread it everywhere, and it's so beautiful to see. Above all of us, really.
It's basically humanity healing itself by itself. It's a form of nature communicating with us also. It's through the psychedelic experience, through this the ritual.
In every party you can find the guys who are
human experience
stuck to the big speaker and literally feeling the air vibrating, and with the psychedelic effect it makes you feel crazy. Come there and be accepted for what you are and loved for it, and it's amazing. Not just as a name for like Universo Paralelo, it's actually a parallel universe.
Welcome to The Sacred in Between. I'm Samuel Zimmerman, and today we are inviting you into a hidden universe, a world where sound becomes spirit and rhythm becomes ritual. This is the heart of Psytrance. Like imagine this,
when all of those people come together,
under the
then they meet
sky,
each other, and they become much stronger, and they share with each other, and they go back and spread it everywhere, and
together
it's
as
so
one.
beautiful to see.
And
Both all of us,
generation,
really.
It's basically humanity healing itself by itself. It's a form of nature communicating with pinnacle also.
It's rebellion and creativity, a powerful force that takes us beyond the ordinary
through the psychedelic
into the
experience.
extraordinary. In this episode, we're taking you on a journey deep into the pulse of one of the world's most enigmatic and vibrant subcultures. It's a realm where psychedelic substances, psilocybin mushrooms, mescaline, DMT are keys to unlocking a greater consciousness, expanding our boundaries, and discovering who we are at the core. For me, this isn't just a topic, it's a way of life. I've lived it, traveled across more than 30 countries, experienced the magic of Psytrance under the stars across all continents, and seen firsthand the power it holds to transform lives. Today, we offer you a glimpse into this captivating world. It's a rite of passage, an awakening, so prepare yourself. This is no ordinary podcast. This is a gateway, an invitation to experience something transformative. Feel the pulse, let the rhythm guide you, and let go of everything else. Together, we'll explore the sacred, the psychedelic, and everything that lies in between. The journey starts now. This is The Sacred in Between.
Welcome, lovely children. Welcome
to this new episode of The Sacred in Between. Today we're talking about something that is very near and dear to me, and this is transformational festivals and the psytrance culture, a culture where I have personally spent an incredible amount of time and also worked as an artist for an incredible amount of time. And I'm just like deeply rooted in that culture in some way. It's not my entire identity, but it's a big part of it. And today, Eliad, Mualem, and me are going to explore this topic together. And we're going to start with a brief introduction of what psytrance actually is. How are you, Eliad?
I'm very good. I'm happy to be here once more.
Yes.
And very excited about this episode.
Yes. We ourselves always don't know where the journey will ultimately lead us. So I'm just going to start and going to explain to people what the psytrance culture is, where it's grounded off. It's a lot of things. It's very expansive. So we have to start somewhere. Psytrance is a relatively fast electronic music style, but also a way of life, a culture, a parallel universe even. And maybe you are part of those people that know about the culture already. Maybe you have thoughts or preconceptions about it, or you are somebody who never heard of it, which is also very possible because it is somewhat secretive and also it is not everywhere. It is in most places you can find larger or smaller psytrance communities, but it is not everywhere. So since this is the internet and you could be literally from anywhere watching this, we will explain it to you quite from the fundamentals. It started actually, it's contemporary psychedelic culture, of course. So what does that mean? It started out of the hippie movement in a way. There is some crossovers of the hippie movement and psychedelic trance culture. Psychedelic trance also has roots in Goa very, very early on in the 1980s in India. Goa is a place that we already, I think, briefly touched upon in our first episode. You can find that episode in our playlist, or, it's just the first episode, so not too hard to find. And in this place, there were many things coming together. Musicians, and then also the upbringing of the first tape machines to actually record synthesizers, the upcoming of drum machines, synthesizers, and electronic music in general in the 70s and 80s. And then the melange of those two worlds. So instrumental music with the new emergent tools that came up at that time for musicians. So this is, some of the roots are there, but then this was only the beginning. It then slowly developed into something and then was transported to Europe, where other people took it upon themselves to basically make it into psytrance, the thing that we know today, which is also just like a big term with many subgenres. But it was taken from that early kind of very rudimentary style of music, but epic parties. Maybe we put some footage of some early Goa parties inside the podcast here so that people can see it. What is it all about? It is basically a place where people meet and have otherworldly experiences. So there is a connection to spirituality. There is a connection to spirituality in the sense that it is the ancient ritual reborn. It is something that people always did since the dawn of man, since the inception of mankind. There were musical rituals, I believe. And it's also like anthropologically and scientifically very well explored that, people met in the jungle or in Africa and so forth and used drums to go into trance. There are still
those many styles in Africa, like Nawa, for example, and many other music styles, which are trance. They are also trance, and they are basically mechanically the same thing. A 4/4 beat to set people into a hypnotic state. With psychedelic trance, of course, there is the psychedelic in the name, so it is a forum for people to experience themselves on psychedelics, ideally, but it's not necessarily always the case. Without going...
I may say...
Yeah, please.
I may say that psychedelia means basically expanding consciousness. So, yeah, it can be with the help of the chemicals, of the medicines, and it can also be simply the music itself. So before psytrance was on and the hippie movement and everything, it was psychedelic rock. So also big parties, a lot of people, and also taking LSD and things like that to expand consciousness. And with the electronic music coming more popular, then also this psychedelic music became like electronic and trance, and
but like apart from the music, also a culture developed. So this is the interesting part, is that like over the many decades that this exists now, you know, a culture developed. And also like there's the question, is it at its peak at the very moment? Probably not. Probably the peak was maybe some other, like some other time. I'm in the psytrance culture since such a long time, and I see it really very much changing. And this has various reasons. One of the reasons is a shift in what people consume on those parties. And if you look at Terence McKenna and his output, there is a correlation in between what societies consume, because all societies ultimately
have some medical stuff that I'm taking it for, and fortunately for example I stopped. Oh, it's a little bit less volume. One sec. I stopped tobacco completely, and I only smoke like medical. But I do smoke because for me it's literally medicine. So much about that. Enjoy.
Consume drugs. For example, the Western society is deeply into sugar, deeply into coffee, deeply into nicotine, deeply into alcohol. This is like where the Western society is driven on that. Also, on top of that, you have the Western society deeply driven, not only the Western society, but many societies driven by heavy chemical substances like amphetamines, for example. Like it's extremely prevalent in the United States, and it's given children... Opiates also, but but then like, okay, there's like, you could argue that this is medicinal use. They are giving it to hyperactive children.
Oh, one second. Sorry. I think that is like, it's an awesome idea. Many people have that idea. Many people have it, or think about it. Almost none are executing on it, but many people are thinking about it. Wouldn't it be amazing if like there wouldn't be boundaries? There aren't any, but like, we are very good in inventing and imagining shit. But the problem is structure. I'm just teaching a student from Thailand, and like he fortunately was like, knowing what his like problems were, and like one of his problems was that he never ended up finishing tracks, and that is connected to structure. For example, it's connected to a lot of other things as well, and it's like, how do you do that is the question, that it makes sense and leads the listener through in a meaningful way, that it's not just like some jumbled up mess, but sublime artistic output. It's not easy, for sure, but it's a great thing to try, for sure.
starting at the age of 6 with Ritalin and Vyvanse and so forth, and also to adults. And then there is some societal drugs that we take all the time. Like, for example, you are just like having a coffee. And
it's decaf, but yeah.
it is decaf. Okay, then okay, fair enough. So
I drink coffee, but right now it's
a decaf.
Yeah.
So what a society consumes ultimately has a huge influence on that society. It's like, it's a huge influence. So I saw the shift away in recent years, specifically in the past 10 years, from entheogenic psychedelics that you found on those events.
Oh, dude. Sorry, bro. I'm so tired. Yeah, I forgot to, like, activate the microphone. Shit. Actually, like, as far as I understand, I don't even have to mute it all the time. Yeah, really sorry. I said a lot of stuff. Shit. My pizza is burning.
And now to different substances. So I don't know if we are even the best authority to explain this time of the origins of psytrance, because we also only know it from what we learned about it. We don't have first-hand experience of that. My time with psytrance started around 2002 to 2004, maybe, as a very young guy, and was back then a fascinating culture. And the more I learned about it, the more it fascinated me. And it was the high times, I believe, like around 2006. Believe was a pretty high moment for psychedelic trance culture, because it was already, the internet was there, so people could network, and they did network in a better way than they do today, in my opinion, because there was not a monopoly power like Facebook, for example, where everything is on Facebook, right? So
I think one of the main differences between the past and the present is that in the beginning, those were like nature parties, very much underground, very unknown and unaccepted. And with time, it became something which is a little bit more and more out in the open and legitimized. And you have legal and big parties.
To be honest, when I'm thinking about 2006, I think about like Boom Festival, which is like it was a huge event, 26,000 people, and and legal, of course, very legal in that sense. A crazy time. It was in a way not very known back then by society what psytrance culture is at all, not by politics, not by police very much, I guess. Was not very much, it was very mystical at that time in a way, you know? It was very, very, very underground, but very active. Extremely, there were big gatherings at that time already, I have to say. So it was not really completely only like, you know, hidden parties. There were, Ozora was already happening and Boom Festival was already happening. Goa is a place that is very important when we talk about psytrance culture. I know that you had your experience. I had a very unique experience myself there, and how I got to know it and how I came to love it ultimately. And it's constantly shifting. It's constantly shifting. If you think about like 5 years ago, it was completely different. Also because of what all the things that happened in between, of course. Definitely, the Goan beach parties were super important, and even nowadays there are still like, you know, big gatherings on Goa's beaches. I'm thinking about going actually this year, having a little tour and playing some of my projects there. I will talk to one guy about this soon, so maybe I will be there. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about.
Truthfully, it was totally fine because, like, I can talk well, and I was just convincing the judge that I'm not really to be punished. Like,
Influence
the,
on that society.
oops,
Early, very. It's a huge influence.
Because I could show him, you know, like X-rays from my back, and I had a very good argumentation about why I was growing weed. You know, should I go on the street and buy contaminated weed from like criminals and so forth? And in the end, like the judge gave me a punishment that left me in the plus. So like I was still, you know, like they came and caught me really late. So basically, yes, I had to pay some money, but I was like very happy with it. And now it's so awesome. It's so amazing. You can like go out with a bag of weed, like it's not an issue, like to a certain size, like 50 gram, I think. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Really cool, actually. I won't lie. It's pretty relaxing to not have the hustle, you know?
Very influential artists. Maybe you probably know them, and even our audience, I guess, knows some of them because they are quite famous. On our notes, we have written Rajaram, Simon Posford, aka Spongel, and Infected Mushroom. So it's a very, very, very basic list. There are so many more influential people in many, many, you know, substyles and so forth. There are influential people for those substyles. You know, do you know all of those? I'm pretty sure you do, right?
Yeah. I know those. Especially Infected Mushroom, obviously it's from here, from my country, and a few other names like Skazi, Asterix, Darwish, like those are the very popular names that I know from here.
Bliss.
But yeah, I know.
Bliss,
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, Bliss, one of the best psytrance like on stage performers for sure. I was listening those guys religiously when I was young. And for me, the psytrance culture was a place where I was, I had the opportunity to travel even before I was an artist. People just took me with them. And I was 18 and already had seen large parts of Europe because of the psytrance culture. I was way too young, I guess, on psytrance parties. I was super tall. So I don't know. I got into clubs very early, you know? And I got to know the people behind the scenes, so to say. So at 16, I was already in all the backstage areas in Munich. And Munich had a marvelous psychedelic trance culture for some reason in the early 2000s, where there was weekly top-notch bookings from world-class artists. We had like weekly events, like there was event series that were just weekly. And it was under extreme repression. Where this culture bloomed. And in this environment of underground parties in the woods also, like, you know, they couldn't stop us from doing this, baby. They tried, but they couldn't. And also actually nice indoor parties that were super, super. Nowadays, those kind of indoor parties don't exist. Like with a lot of batik, like really people created a completely different world where you don't feel you're in some city club, but you're like in a really different space. And we had amazing parties on farms, of course, on farms in Bavaria. Because in Bavaria, as I...
Yeah, so quickly, a little bit of backstory for what you are seeing right now. First of all, thanks for anyone that is tuning in. This is The Sacred in Between, what you're watching. A podcast that I produced with a person that I quite frankly miss a little bit. He disappeared. He's a really, as you can see, flashy guy. I met him in the Himalayas after we started the podcast. And now he disappeared. Oh, as soon as I'm talking, already 4 people dropped out. Anyway, I'll let you watch more.
I mentioned, it was heavy suppression through the political leaders, and also because of the police, of course. They tried to kill this culture under all circumstances because they thought it's just about drugs, which it's not. It's about mind expansion. As Eliad already like hinted to, you know, the music itself can be enough as a tool for mind expansion if you let it happen. On the other hand, we don't need to fool ourselves. Also what I said is very true. It's a forum for people to hopefully safely experience themselves. A lot of the
I would say even more than just a forum. It's a family, it's a tribe. Like it's a very very beautiful space to be in, the people and the vibration and
that is true.
It's a very amazing feeling. Yeah,
that is true. And it's also global, and that is very fascinating. That I got invited to almost 30 countries and to places like Nepal, you know, from Nepali people, for example. There's small tribes everywhere of people listening to this music. There's big tribes like Brazil, Portugal, Germany, you could also say. And Japan, Israel, those are all places with rather big scenes. South Africa. Australia has a community. They're all in various sizes. And even in the most unlikely places, like Singapore, for example. Singapore is...
Yeah, I didn't know.
It's very hardcore. It has the most stringent drug laws in the world, I believe. It's super, super, super hardcore. Like, for the tiniest amount of weed, I think you get heavily punished and so forth. It's like, it's no joke. So it's like, for that reason alone, it's quite surprising. And even in China, I believe some people made psytrance parties. I know that because I had this magazine, Psy Society, and we had articles written from people about those places. And yeah, it's a global phenomenon. The parties in Brazil, for example, are ginormous in some cases, or pretty much like very often. Like even a medium-sized Brazilian event is like a big event in Europe, you can say. They're really big. They have a lot of people. In Europe, we mentioned already Ozora. It's a very important event and beautiful. I've been there many times, and it's quite amazing. Boom Festival was always amazing, is still amazing, but of course places change, okay? You cannot compare them. Like, you cannot compare the Boom now to the Boom in 2006. But you don't have to. Yeah. Then we talked a little bit about the origin of the music as a style. It was basically a hodgepodge of synthesizers and people with instruments like flutes and maybe some guitars, and like people used whatever they had, and it was quite unsophisticated in a way until sophisticated people got involved, and step by step the technology evolved and the music evolved, and it never stopped. That's something that's really, really interesting, is that it is still an active culture after so many years. It's very much still active. If you could see now, you know, Ozora, for example, was sold out, I think, the last edition, with thousands and thousands of people. At some
I would say that like everything, yeah, cultures evolve and music evolve, and I personally really like the old school trance. My first memory of trance music was maybe when I was 6 years old, going to my sister's room and listening to Spiritual Healing by Juan, which I still really like, one of my favorite tracks ever. And but yeah, things change, and they change also for the best. You can like the old school, but also it's very nice that it expands and evolve and change like everything
Yeah.
in the world.
Sure. One really nice thing, though, was that in the past there was not that much of a big separation. In the 2010s, what happened is that many mono festivals were happening and parties coming up, mono parties coming up. And instead of psytrance being one big, big culture, it started to really separate itself. And nowadays, you have Hitech and Dark Psy and Psycore. Psycore is the most extreme iteration of psychedelic music yet, or of psychedelic trance yet. It's like extremely high BPM. And I was just on such a party with a friend of mine.
I'm inaptly trying to show you my pizza. Hey Google, alle Lampen auf Tageslicht.
Alles klar. Die Lichtfarbe von 3 Lampen wird auf Tageslicht
Why is it
geändert.
so blurry? That's my pizza, or that's the pizza that I did today. It's fresh, and it tastes good. It has bell pepper on it, and of course oregano and basil and tomato, and there you go. I will show you my food. Out of some weird ass reason, I don't know. But wow, the camera is really struggling with this pizza. She doesn't want to, can't deal with it.
In Berlin on an underground Psycore event, where it's mostly like above 220 BPM or something like that. And
Wow.
it's crazy. And it's so far removed from original psytrance.
Yeah, they were just like the psytrance culture of the noughties, and also the 2010s, the early 2000s. It was just bonkers good. Like it was just in between, like the hype, the commercialism that happened in the 90s, end of 90s, was kind of like going down, and it was still super popular. It was the shit basically in the early 2000s. Was, you either knew about the secret culture or you didn't, but it had like an extreme importance, and it got fucked by Mark Zuckerberg and his friends, in my opinion. Like social media had the most detrimental effect. Of course, humans are stupid to let Mark divide us, but that's what is happening. Like if you guys know it, like let's say like, okay, you're from Belgium, the other guy's from Mexico. Wherever you are, people are gossiping, they are, infighting, and it's a mess basically. And the funny thing is, if people finally meet each other on a festival or something like that, then they're super sweet with each other. But there's like a war going on, and that wasn't the case back then, of course, because social media didn't exist first, and then it was in the advent, and it was literally something cool, new, from the Silicon Valley, with a good intention originally, that got corrupted fast.
In a way, also culturally.
Yeah.
It's funny, it reminded me on Boom Festival 2006, we were chilling on the lake, and at Boom Festival, there's this interesting phenomena where there's always the anti-boom. There's the Boom Festival, and there's the anti-boom. You never heard of the anti-boom? The anti-boom...
No, tell me about it.
It's the anti-boom is...
Yeah, bro. I mean, like... Nowadays it's so crazy. I heard in my own city, I heard a funny story. there was an organizer. I have nothing to do with the guy. I don't care about the guy, to be very honest with you, because he's not a friend, he's not a family. Why would I care so much about him? But like, I was talking to some DJs here from the local scene, like rave culture, and there was like some gossip problem about this organizer, that he would have done something bad, which turned out was entirely false. And actually, like, you know, the law system in Germany is working. So like, he went to court, and even like, you know, the place where the rumor started, like, the girl was herself sorry. She had like a, you know, weird kind of mental thing going on, and therefore did something weird, which, you know, caused that issue. And the guy still was siding with the gossip, despite the fact that it was like completely evidence-based, you know, like, okay, no problem, guy didn't do anything. Like, in the psytrance culture, it's unhealthy obsession with corruption, gatekeeping, and gossip to a degree that is like really absurd, like very absurd. Because like, imagine, like, human culture couldn't exist if all cultures would be like that. It's like, you know, artists are usually a bit weird because they have to do art all the time. So it's like, it's totally logical. And yeah, in Hitech, for example, there is an unhealthy obsession with attacking and canceling artists, for sure. Kashik, Tchaikovsky, myself, like, now is also some weird story with another artist. It's fucked up, to be honest with you. And it's always, the people that are behind that are mostly insane people. Like, literally, when you see them, you think like, this person needs help. Most of the time when I saw the people that are behind it, they're like almost mental hospital level. It's a problem. It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem, because it's not attractive for listeners and not attractive for artists. And then cultures die, of course, because people move on. If it's just like a corrupted piece of shit, then why would I, you know, dedicate my life to it and like spend so much time with it? Anyway, sorry for sidetracking.
Exactly what the name suggests. It's, instead of you have to pay for the ticket, you don't have to pay for the ticket, and it's like free, and it's core. It's core people. And not even back then, it was not even Psycore was not born yet, so it was just core. Core is very, oh my god, I can't really explain it. It's extremely hard and usually quite aggressive music, and I don't know. And those people, anyway, they came over from the lake, and there was this kind of female leader of this group, and she was like super wasted in a way, I have to say. And they basically came as like, I don't know how I think they snuck in. They probably 100% they snuck in. 100% they didn't pay, because this is against their ethos basically. And it's like, you know, how to explain the anti-boom? Maybe we can find some footage and I can show it to you. It's just like in psytrance, it is spiritually adjacent. You don't have to be super spiritual, but since it is so close to the psychedelic experience, it's like, you know, spirituality is inherently a thing in the psychedelic culture. In the core culture, that's not really a thing, for example. In the psycore culture. Yeah, now, yes, it is. So don't confuse now when I'm saying core and psycore. Psycore is a relatively new phenomenon. And then when I'm saying core is this more original core. I'm really not the right person actually to talk about it, because I never went too much, you know, into it, basically. It's a bit too much.
And there is also the opposite. There is also the opposite of like psychill and
yeah, of course. Yeah,
so this is more mellow.
Yes, extremely mellow. This is the thing. So like psytrance music, now it became that overarching kind of genre. And as you say, there is ambience, for example. There is psychill, there is progressive psy, there is xenonesque psy, which is like more a mix of techno and psychedelic trance. There is everything. It's like one of the electronic music styles with the most sub-styles, I guess. Although it's quite common in all styles, like D&B, for example. You know how many sub-styles drum and bass has? A lot. Like a gazillion sub-styles.
But I think besides what you said about the anti-boom, which I didn't know from before, in my experience, even if people like different genres, they still very much have respect for each other and still consider themselves part of the same big family, let's say.
I don't think that this is always the case. I do think like that. I truly do think like that. And I have an appreciation as much for amazing chill out as I have for high BPM styles, or as I have for great performers like Bliss, for example. Like, I can respect anything if it's genuine and not, not a sellout kind of thing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't make money. You should make a lot of money with great music. It's not what I'm saying, but like, that shouldn't be the aim or the ultimate driver. And usually it isn't. Usually this is not like...
That sounds actually quite nice. Yeah, I would love to come there one day. For me, the issue is like I'm super bad in communication and many things. Like I'm only good. Like I'm like Inselbegabt. Like I'm super extraordinary talented. So like literally 15 professors on the university was having a look at me when I was 20 and said like, that guy is extraordinarily talented. Here's a letter that says it. So like that is a fact of life. But I'm super useless in anything else that is not, art and shit, basically. So also like, getting in touch with people. When I do, always the microphone is somewhere else. When I do, it's usually successful, like without any hustle. Like, like for example, my last tour in America and Mexico, I sent my EPK to one single guy. He immediately booked me, and usually it is like that. But yeah, I've issues with. Well, let me explain it like that. I play, for example, I'm a video game guy. I like video games as a media, and I play usually like up to 10 to 20 video games at the same time, and I will finish them, but it will take forever, and I do everything like that a little bit, like, yeah. Where really the magic is coming from is not like, I want to make a lot of money and become very famous. This is not how you create a project like Spongel or something like that. This music is born out of love. But thanks for the info. It sounds like a nice one. I've heard of it like here and there, but I don't know how it looks and so forth. In Germany, I have to say that the festivals... I mean, there is no good ones anymore. Let's face it, like, Fracks of Nature and the good ones, not even to talk about Psychedelic, are long gone. And this is not nostalgia. This is like literally, it's like everybody who knows that this is a fact. It's like literally a fact. It was better than now. We don't have anything anymore. It's corrupted. The scene is corrupted, of course. I hate to say that. I hate to be like... I'm not negative, really, but I'm a realist in this case. Thanks for the info, though. And thanks for commenting and so forth.
Hopefully. So...
Also, one more thing I really like...
Yeah?
Sorry. Also, one more thing I really like is the instrumental psytrance. So they bring didgeridoo and drums and guitar.
Like
still today, I mean, not in the tribes like you said before.
Olive Tree Dance is a great example of that. For example, I saw...
It's very amazing.
It is. It can be super amazing, of course. Trance music has so many faces. Psytrance, though, usually is mostly electronic or a mix of electronic and not electronic. But I like it if it's so open that even like, completely not electronic projects, they have their space. It's just you need to put them in the right place on a Psytrance event. Or in the right space. Right place or right space. Meaning, the right time in the timetable or the right floor on your festival where such a thing really works. Let's talk a little bit about festivals a bit more. I know you haven't been on many great festivals, right? Like on the big ones. Did you see many of
Yeah,
them?
I've not been on the big festivals. I've been on smaller festivals or parties of like just one night or something like that, or something we made like for friends only. And the big festivals, unfortunately, I've not been. I've seen many videos, of course, but it's not the same.
It is not the same, no. Yeah, those big events I love them. There are people who don't like them. I have been at Universo Paralelo, for example, in Brazil because I played there, which was a great honor, of course. And
Yes.
there's still some which I haven't been, like Burning Man, for example, which is not a pure Psytrance festival at all, but you will have Psytrance as well there, of course, because it is a transformational festival, you know? Like, not every Psytrance festival is a transformational festival, I'd say, but many of them are. Ozora is, Boom is 100%. Universo Paralelo also is. Yet again, Universo Paralelo in Brazil is not a pure psytrance festival. There's also techno and acoustical music and so forth. I had a lot of really otherworldly experiences on those festivals, and they gave me a safe space to have psychedelic
Amazing.
experience. I don't know. Nowadays, I'm not personally, if I'm not playing on festivals, I'm not like experiencing them that much anymore as I used to. I think in 2020, I was, for the first time in maybe a decade, I visited a festival like a visitor, you know? And yeah, usually now I don't go there so much anymore, but I want to. Maybe next year I might go to Ozora or something like that just to have a look at it, or play there, try to play there at least. It's
Hopefully.
yes, hopefully. Yes.
Maybe with Shakti.
Maybe with Shakti, who knows. And on those great festivals, it's more than just music. It's really playgrounds for adults, I would say. And yeah, it's playgrounds for adults because it's psychedelic playgrounds consisting out of art, out of visuals, and out of community activities. So usually on those bigger events specifically, also sometimes on smaller events, you have workshops, you have, yoga sessions, you have even stuff like cinemas where you can go that are all open air, of course. And some of those festivals are almost like futuristic cities that are built into the nature just for a limited amount of time. Also, festivals like Boom, they have the great thing that they are trying to be sustainable. So it's all, they try to really be as green as possible, have compost toilet systems, have their own water cleansing systems with sand and plant. There are different systems for that, like and so forth. There's tons of land out.
Funny enough,
so literally you can walk around those festivals and you might be on a psychedelic substance.
When I was super young and just
you're
starting
falling
to
from
produce,
one spectacle into the other. Oh, there's a nice little temple
really
structure there.
Oh,
then you're walking around.
When I was super young and just started to produce.
In Psytrance, when you start.
Now I have to where were we?
Phenomenon. And then what?
Sorry guys. I ended up playing Saturday night at 11 o'clock in 2009, I think it was, on Transylvania Calling. Alpha was the stage manager back then. Jesse from how was the label called? Cosmic Society arranged this for me. He really believed in me and he supported me. He was the first guy who supported me internationally. And he knew everybody. He was like a scene guy. May he rest in peace. Also, Jesse is dead, unfortunately. But may he rest in peace. He was a great guy. And I was super green, super young, like early 20s. And I jumped head first into production. And I was super fast. I was getting there extremely fast. And he managed it that some artists was not coming, and I got his slot Saturday night 11 o'clock. as a super unexperienced artist on this huge stage. And I was like a noob, basically. And this was not even the only one on this summer. On Ozora, I played on the Pirate floor, which was like run by biomechanical CTC Drop. And there was everybody. All my idols were there. And I was playing my music there. And of course, I was not good because I just started out. And I remember Cosmo coming to me and like fixing the mixer and so forth. But this was my first contact. It was long before I was in Noise Poison Records or in any label other than, you know, Cosmic Society, which was like a smaller label. But yeah, I played on Transylvania Calling, not booked, but like, you know, in 2009 as my very first international big festival performance was there. Alpha was the stage manager, and first of all, I respect Alpha. He's like a little bit quirky. I'm also a little bit quirky. So like I have respect. But I was super young, 20 years old. He was the stage manager. I was playing and he was freaking out because I was like literally 30 seconds over or something like that. And he was like, you know, what is this random dude? He's not an artist that he knows. And he was not nice. Then I became famous short after. And then he was very nice always. And he is actually a nice guy. So I don't want to like, you know, put blame on him or something like that. To be honest with you, he was just doing his job. And that's what a stage manager is doing. He's like making sure that time slots are kept in order. So like that was fine. But I was like a very young guy, super green. So for me it was like, oh my god, this guy is screaming at me. Just because I want to finish my track. The issue is I don't know where we were in the podcast.
But when I'm saying core, is this more original core? I'm really not the right person actually to talk about it because I never went too much, you know, into it. Basically, it's a bit too much.
And there is also the opposite. There is also the opposite of like psychill and
yeah, of course. Yeah,
so
this is
more mellow.
Yes, extremely mellow. This is the thing. So like psytrance music. Now it became that overarching kind of genre. And as you say, there is ambience, for example. There is psychill, there is progressive psy, there is xenonesque psy, which is like more a mix of techno and psychedelic trance. There is everything. There is.
Yes, but I have heard that they had some serious issues with the location. I just heard not rumors, but you know, like I didn't investigate it myself. But they had to shift location from a very nice location to a very shitty location. Germany is like, okay, on top of everything, like the scene is a mess, okay? Like the scene is a really bad mess. Like there are severe criminals are in charge of what is left of the psychedelic culture in Germany, and they are exploiting it for money. And that's of course bad. So like Germany is not in a good place anyway, but to make it even worse, the bureaucracy it's crazy. In general, to be honest with you, it's also corruption. Because like you can't tell me that if this would be a family kind of like thing with like those plastic shit, like where kids can go inside and jump around and stuff, then they would have gotten the permission. For example, in Australia also, like Esoteric Festival was just cancelled. This is suppression of the psychedelic culture. It's like from stiff people that don't want those pesky hippies, basically, in their neighborhood. Like there was another big festival where I was booked in Germany, where it was relatively close by a village where only rich people lived. And they literally fucked this dude so badly. Like this can mean financial ruin for people if they're investing millions and then just because of the whim of some weird kind of guy, bureaucratic guy, like millions of investment and so forth are gone, and potentially like even more. It's fucking crazy. But yeah, I heard that Sci-Fi shifted their location. Parvati Gathering, I have no idea. To be honest with you, I don't want to prejudge it. I have like sort of like hopes that it would be good, but I don't know what the organization is, and so like prejudging is not a good idea. But yeah, maybe Sci-Fi, maybe Parvati Gathering. I think Parvati Gathering hopefully will be kind of like a family kind of meeting for the psychedelic culture. I hope so, at least. Yeah, it's a good question. Where do I actually go this year for festivals, if I do at all? But I partied all my life. I'm like Obelix, you know. I fell into the pot of acid and events and parties and festivals when I was just like 18 years old, 20 years old, and didn't leave for 15 years. So for me, it's not so bad. What I'm doing right now is like working a little bit on my businesses, because of course I also need to think about what happens when I get really old. I also need to have a plan back then. But what I miss at the moment is the traveling. This was the first winter for such a long time, for more than 10 years, that I've spent in Germany, because I had to do some things. And it's horrible. It's horrible in the winter, wow. Crazy. Okay, let's watch some more. And then
it's like one of the electronic music styles with the most sub-styles, I guess. Although it's quite common in all styles, like D&B, for example. You know how many sub-styles drum and bass has? A lot. Like a gazillion sub-styles.
But I think besides what you said about the anti-boom, which I didn't know from before, in my experience, even if people like different genres, they still very much have respect for each other and still consider themselves part of the same big family, let's say. So
I don't think that this is always the case. I do think like that. I truly do think like that. And I have an appreciation as much for amazing chill out as I have for high BPM styles, or as I have for great performers like Bliss, for example. Like, I can respect anything if it's genuine and not, not a sellout kind of thing. I'm not saying that you shouldn't make money. You should make a lot of money with great music. It's not what I'm saying, but like, that shouldn't be the aim or the ultimate driver. And usually it isn't. Usually this is not like where really the magic is coming from. It's not like, I want to make a lot of money and become very famous. This is not how you create a project like Spongel or something like that. Though this music is born out of love, hopefully. So
also one more thing I really like.
Yeah.
Sorry. Also one more thing I really like is the instrumental psytrance. So they bring didgeridoo and drums and guitar.
Like
still today, I mean, not in the tribes like you said before.
Olive Tree Dance is a great example of that. For example, I saw...
It's very amazing.
It is. It can be super amazing, of course. Trance music has so many faces. Psytrance, though, usually is mostly electronic or a mix of electronic and not electronic. But I like it if it's so open that even like, completely not electronic projects, they have their space. It's just you need to put them in the right place on a psytrance event, or in the right space. Right place or right space, meaning, the right time in the timetable or the right floor on your festival where such a thing really works. Let's talk a little bit about festivals a bit more. I know you haven't been on many great festivals, right? Like on the big ones? Did you see many of them?
Yeah, I've not been on the big festivals. I've been on smaller festivals or parties of like just one night or...
Yeah, the thing is that I had a really sad thing happening regarding this. For example, like most of the motorbike movies that I had are on this hard drive. And this hard drive is a new hard drive, actually, that just stopped after 1 year of working. After one year, it just stopped. There's 8 terabyte of my life, literally my life as an artist, are on this hard drive, and it's broken. So, and it's severely mechanically broken, as it looks like. So very expensive, if at all possible, to recover. And therefore, yeah, this is so sad. Really, this is so sad, because I don't have the money right now. It's very expensive, right? So, yeah, I don't have the money, and it's literally all my life work as an artist is on this hard drive. Also the rest of the episodes of The Sacred in Between. Bro, in this case, yeah, I mean, of course, go for it. The thing is that, like, it's just super expensive. It's not that you cannot do it. It's just mega expensive. It depends. It depends. If it's a mechanical failure, which in this case it seems like it is, then it's very expensive in Germany, because you need a specialist to actually, like, you know, open it in a kind of sterile environment and so forth, and he really needs to know what he's doing. So it is very expensive. Like, can easily cost like more than 1,000 euros. My life is on there. All my archives from my production, all my videos and photos from traveling a decade, which I documented because I know as an artist, you know, I learned it. Kind of like, you always have to, like, document your work. Like, even if you're not putting it out, because ultimately, you know, I'm here now and I'm, of course, working for you guys who are alive together with me, but at some point we will not be anymore, and therefore I always recorded everything as good as I can, which is not always great, but in some cases, yes, in some cases I had, like, tour photographers and so forth. So all this stuff is on this WD hard drive, which I will never buy again in my life, because I have a couple of verbateams, for example, and I have them forever. One of them is, like, literally more than a decade old, and it's running with no issue. This 1 year, and it was gone with 8 terabyte of my most important data that I didn't run in RAID. So yeah, I know, stupid, very sad. So motorbikes, I need to see which footage I have. There must be some, but yeah, I think you were the only person who enjoyed it, though. That, like, format where I'm, like, talking over biking. I think that was an idea that I had, like, not too long ago. And I love bikes, of course. Like, it's not really I don't call them moped, but you can call them moped if you like. I call them motorbikes, because for me it's a difference. But yeah, I love motorbikes so much, and I love talking also. So I thought I bring the two things together. But instead of motorbikes, I could do a similar format with my inline skates that I bought, and literally I'm almost on them. Like, I'm not, like, I'm only going with inline skates basically, like, literally anywhere, like, except supermarkets, because they don't let you in. But, like, some of my friends, they didn't see me without inline skates for a long time, and I'm not even taking them off when I visit people, because it's, like, really tough to take them off. But yeah, the same format of, like, talking over videos with bike, I could do the same with the inline skates potentially. The issue with content is that it's not that I'm not capable in doing it. I'm not very steady in following it through, like, and, like, making it successful. Like, yeah, I should be rich with all the skills that I have, but I'm not, for example. And the reason is that I have organizational problems, like a lack of interest in things that don't hype me, basically, you know, like, yeah. it's pretty clear that like I possibly have ADHD or like some form of ADHD or on the spectrum of that, maybe, you know, like it's not like totally diagnosed, but I was visiting a doctor and he said that, and like most people that see me, they say it's like pretty evident. So like I do have that, and like when I have an idea for content, then often it is like that I'm like underwhelmed by the response, and then like, yeah, not doing it steadily. And this is what people really enjoy. People really enjoy knowing that Friday evening they get their podcast or they get their live stream or something like that. And I don't know, like it's like really ridiculous that I'm doing many things that are quite complicated and need a lot of cerebral effort and brain juice, and like this simple shit like this, for example, like, okay, like, you know, it's not so complicated, like do a DJ set once a week, do a live stream once a week or something like that, like in a steady fashion, then it works. But maybe you notice that like sometimes I'm like, you know, very active, then I'm not very active, and yeah, it's kind of like a little bit difficult for me. I wish I would like have a big house with a lot of creators and people that support creators, you know, and or an assistant. That would be also great.
Something like that, or something we made like for friends only. And the big festivals, unfortunately, have not been. I've seen many videos, of course, but it's not the same.
It is not the same, no. Yeah, those big events I love them. There are people who don't like them. I have been at Universo Paralelo, for example, in Brazil, because I played there, which was a great honor, of course. And there's still some which I haven't been, like Burning Man, for example, which is not a pure Psytrance festival at all, but you will have Psytrance as well there, of course, because it is a transformational festival, you know? Like, not every Psytrance festival is a transformational festival, I'd say, but many of them are. Ozora is, Boom is 100%. Universo Paralelo also is. Yet again, Universo Paralelo in Brazil is not a pure Psytrance festival. There's also techno and acoustical music and so forth. I had a lot of really otherworldly experiences on those festivals, and they gave me a safe space to have psychedelic experience. I don't know. Nowadays, I'm not personally, if I'm not playing on festivals, I'm not like experiencing them that much anymore as I used to. I think in 2020, I was, for the first time in maybe a decade, I visited a festival like a visitor, you know? And yeah, usually now I don't go there so much anymore, but I want to. Maybe next year I might go to Ozora or something like that, just to have a look at it, or play there, try to play there at least. It's
hopefully.
Quite, yes, hopefully.
Yeah, and yeah, like, I mean, my work, like, it's so important, documentation. Like, I take my project serious. I know that, like, you know, there's a lot of weird hate in the scene, but, like, that's not my problem. But I know who I am and so forth, and, like, you know, Parandroid project is dedicated. It's full love. It's full love. It's full of love. And that is the truth. Like, me as a person can sometimes be, like, you know, be very open about things, let's put it like that. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that is gone. Then all my travels, like from at least the past 5 years or something like that, the issue was that this was a big archive hard drive where I just ended up, you know, pushing most of my content to. Yeah, and then it died. Like, literally mechanical failure. The only thing what I can do is like try to open it, but I didn't manage. And like put it in a PC, but you could hear that it's literally a mechanical fault. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. It would be really, really awesome to get this done. Yes.
Maybe with Shakti.
Maybe with Shakti, who knows? And on those great festivals, it's more than just music. It's playgrounds for adults, I would say. And yeah, it's playgrounds for adults because it's psychedelic playgrounds consisting out of art, out of visuals, and out of community activities. So usually on those bigger events specifically, also sometimes on smaller events, you have workshops, you have, yoga sessions, you have even stuff like cinemas where you can go that are all open air, of course. And some of those festivals are almost like futuristic cities that are built into the nature just for a limited amount of time. Also, festivals like Boom, they have the great thing that they are trying to be sustainable. So it's all, they try to really be as green as possible, have compost toilet systems, have their own water cleansing systems with sand and plant. There are different systems for that. And so forth. There's tons of land art. So literally you can walk around those festivals and you might be on a psychedelic substance and you're falling from one spectacle into the other. Oh, there's a nice little temple kind of structure there. Then you're walking around, suddenly you end up in a garden with edible plants, actually, where you can actually eat the stuff that is growing on the floor. And
amazing
stuff like that. It's really, really cool. Everybody should visit such a festival, in my opinion, at least once. I mean, then you can still say, okay, I didn't like it, but hardly anyone goes to a festival like Ozora or to Boom Festival and comes back and says he doesn't like it. Even the people that didn't know the culture before. Because it is such a hedonistic place, It's so close to paradise. At least not for everyone. There's still a personal experience. If you have if you have a terrible time, that can always happen to people. But the large majority of people on those big festivals, they are big for a reason also, right? They're big because they did something right and then everybody wants to go there. Even people that are not super hardcore into the culture even. They just became so popular. It's also in general.
I think it's also really not just as a name for Universo Paralelo. It's actually a parallel universe for people to... So we live in this modern world and some people, they cannot feel comfortable being how they want to be really, and this place is like a safe haven where you can dress as you want, be the fairy that you are, the alien that you are, whatever you are, you can come there and be accepted for what you are and loved for it, and this is amazing.
That is a big part of it, of course, is the ability to be yourself. Even on the event now, on the Psychor party, which it was really, really cool. And I recorded everything with a VR camera. So I actually, maybe I export something of that and put it inside here. There were amazing people there, actually. Yes, amazing people there. And one guy, for example, was having antlers, You know what is antlers?
I'm not sure.
It's from
horns?
deer. You know what is deer? A deer? No, it's there's a forest animal,
the animal. Yeah, I know what is it.
You know Jägerbomb, right? Jägermeister.
Yeah, the horns kind of.
The horns, yes. One of them had, and he was a little bit furry. And I talked with him also, and yes, he's slightly furry, and that means he likes, he likes to live his animalistic side. So he had actually a tail, sort of a fox tail, and antlers. And there was another girl. Her name was Eine, very, very beautiful girl, actually. And everybody can live themselves to the fullest without getting annoyed. She was very beautiful. She had a lot of those perfumes and shit that she did herself. And she was very openly dressed also, only a netting kind of thing. As you said, everybody can do what they want in a way, be themselves, as long as they're not hurting other people, of course, or disturbing the peace to a massive degree, of course,
we can talk about that. Like, what happens when people are unwell? We already talked before the podcast about that. I mean, let's cut to the chase. People take psychedelics on those events, and it's mostly fine, I'd say. But of course, it is, as a setting, a quite not 100% controlled setting. If you give somebody advices about psychedelics, you normally wouldn't tell them go to a big event with 10.
Yeah, it is rather sad, to be honest with you, like that, you know, like I come originally from the psytrance culture. This podcast episode, for example, is about psytrance, and Hitech, in my understanding, is part of psytrance, but it makes such a bad name for itself, the dark side and the Hitech styles, with their weird behavior of, like, you know, attacking artists and excluding people and like all this shit. It's so not the ethos of what it's supposed to be, and then like people don't identify. I understand anyone who's like jumping off board at this point.
1,000 people where everything can happen and stuff is sort of not in your control all the time, you know? Yeah.
Especially not the first time. So if it's your first time with psychedelics, that would probably, you would have to prepare yourself, be with people who can take care of you and make sure, like, be responsible. You can do anything you want, but you have to take responsibility for it and not just...
I have to say that 100% there's thousands of people which had their first experience on a psytrance event and they had an amazing time. I'm 100% convinced about that. But just as a precautionist thing, yeah, you are right. It's correct what you're saying. Just as a precaution that you at least are a bit familiar with it. But the cool thing is that there are, on most big festivals, on all big festivals, I would say, there are places where there is trip care, so to say. So let's say it's all overwhelming you, or you get into a mental room of pain, or you actually have like some, you know, emotional breakdown. Then usually there is a place where there is some individuals which are only there to assist you in getting through your bad trip, if you have something like that, which I think is really, really cool. We talked about it just before, right, Elliot? You said that.
Yeah, I said that. You said that it's a very common thing for a long time, but here in Israel it wasn't so for a really long time, and only recently they've started doing it. So usually everybody in the party can support you. People are very, they know the substances and everything, but not everyone is really qualified to do it. So they can try to help out of goodwill. But now they've actually set up qualified people and the necessary, whatever you need, medical things, you know, and a safe space like a tent or whatever that you can relax. And yeah, it's much better that people have more awareness of it and how to, okay, it's happening anyways. Let's at least prevent, we cannot from using it. On the other hand, we want them, but we want them to do it responsibly. So we need to provide the right conditions for it in case something goes wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. But the most important thing is, I have smoothie all over my face. I'm just noticing that now. The most important thing is actually that the culture stays clean in a way. I think for like that it's a safe place, you know, and it is quite hard to achieve that because it's an open culture. Theoretically, everybody is welcome, especially on those big events. Anybody can just buy a ticket. So you don't have, you know, there's not a passport for like psytrance culture. It's like now you can come in or something like that. So yeah, it's upon us to educate the younger generation, for example. It's a tribe that in some places also I feel got lost in the last years. I have to say it's just not all perfect and positive in the psytrance culture. I believe there's like always the potential of corruption for any culture. And in the psytrance culture, it always came in the form of organized crime. Organized crime is always very attracted to that culture. And organized crime are the ones who really benefit from the bad drugs, which are also now a very common thing on psytrance drugs. I don't want to judge, okay? Anyone can take whatever he wants, but the psytrance culture is originally intended for the psychedelic experience. If you're constantly on amphetamines, or even worse, methamphetamines, or any kind of other substance, let's say like you're constantly on cocaine or something like that, those are all not psychedelic cultures. And we all have to take responsibility. It's like if people are selling those drugs, they are mostly working for organized crime. And it's the biggest downfall is that how close organizers usually are to organized crime. It's very sad that I have to say it, but we have to be a little bit truthful here. And
one of the most beautiful things about psychedelic experience is that unlike, let's say, alcohol or cocaine, like you said, which cause in other parties a lot of maybe fighting, physical violence and things, where people take LSD or, I don't know, MD or whatever they take, even in so the psychedelic rock in Woodstock, it was the biggest, 400,000, half a million people together, unplanned to be so many, and not even one single event of violence. So this is amazing. And if you put some 500 people in a bar, they would probably fight and kill each other.
Sooner or later, yeah. Definitely if you put them for 1 week. Like, for example, we don't need to look very far. Yeah. Because in Germany, we have the luck or unluck, in my opinion, the latter, of being the host of the biggest alcohol fest in the world, the Oktoberfest. The biggest beer fest in the world. And I was lucky enough to live for a very long time in this city where the biggest beer fest in the world is held. And it's a nightmare. If you want to know how beer festivals are looking, rape goes up tremendously. I think we cannot even say that word. YouTube will rank us like down, not distribute our video. But anyway, that shit is going up like hell. And everything is stinking like pee. And people are vomiting everywhere, of course. And it's a total disaster. You come to the Oktoberfest and you see they have those special things, which is like basically those stretchers to carry them, and then they have some plastic tent kind of concoction thingy on top of that is specifically for people overdosing on alcohol somehow, I don't know, which is super weird. And all the people that live there, specifically the people that live close to the Theresienwiese, the place where it's actually held, for them it's a nightmare. You go and all the trains are full of drunk people, and everywhere it's vomit and pee. I'm sorry, this is like how an alcohol fest is looking, right? It's the biggest one in the world, and this is how it looks. It's like the R thing, RA ... is going up. People are drinking themselves into oblivion. Tons of violent breakouts, fights, crime, etc. And so forth. Yeah, everything that you would expect.
The most annoying thing, everything that you would expect. And I think the very sad part of it is that those things are not persecuted as much as psytrance used to be. Like you say, right now it's much more accepted, but in the beginning it was not. It was persecuted by police.
Still not in Bavaria, for example. So like in Germany, right? In Germany, we have the South, and the South is extremely hardline conservative, and they're still prosecuting it quite hard, and there is still no festivals in the South. Now there was a festival, they call it a festival, It's called, I think, Triambaka or something like that. And I think it's not even outdoor because they can't do it outdoor. They are still in the south of Germany, in Bavaria, heavily suppressing the psytrance culture as much as they can. And it still happens that it's suppressed. It's just like maybe a bit more accepted as just one other weird music style where people, go crazy, basically. Yeah. The importance of art, we talked about that. Connection to psychedelic substance and the philosophy behind them. Let's talk a little bit about this subtopic. It's really interesting. So ideally, a psytrance event is sort of a ritual, actually. So it should be sort of ritualized. The best psychedelic experiences are somewhat ritualized. Even if you go into psychedelic assisted therapy, it is somewhat ritualized, There is an effort in that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And this really, really, really will enhance it. For example, in Boom Festival 2006, the main dance floor, the dance temple, was actually a 27-meter high Balinese temple. A temple made from bamboo, from the greatest. Now, unfortunately, the man is unfortunately dead. I forgot his name. But the greatest temple builder, one of the greatest temple builders in the world. Literally one of the greatest bamboo temple builders in the world. A huge temple for an incredible amount of people, right? Like definitely plus 10, 15,000 people, with more than 25,000 people on the whole festival. You would maybe have like at any given time maybe up to 15,000, I guess, on the main floor. I guess, because there's never everybody is on the main floor on a festival like Boom Festival, right? It's like a psychedelic playground. Some people are doing yoga, some people are eating, some people are on the chill out floor, some people are doing this, But It was literally a temple building made without a single screw or nail. This is also fascinating. This was the last Boom Festival, by the way, that was made by a guy called Diego, and then he sold the Boom Festival. So since 2008, or maybe after 2008, after 2008 he sold it, sorry. He sold it. So this was one of the last editions actually by him. And with that original visionary behind the festival. Of course, when that changed, also Boom Festival changed. There is no denying that. But still, it's still something beautiful. So, just because it changed doesn't mean that it's something bad now or something like that. It just is not the same as it originally was. And you could literally in 2006, when you came into that temple structure, which is a holy structure and is, human culture, high human culture, developed over hundreds of years by the most sophisticated architects from Bali. And you came into that dance floor and it felt like the dance floor was made out of jello. It was such a thick energy. You entered into that bubble and you were in an absolute different world, in a different dimension.
And that's the idea of temple, basically, but for our viewers who don't know. So temple is a kind of a structure where you use different symbols, colors, materials, and many other elements so we can enhance and create a protective bubble, like you just said, that you felt it. So this is how they create it. And it's a very good thing. Also in other rituals, maybe there will be not structure and things like ayahuasca ritual. They will make the space support your experience, so you will have the best and protected experience.
Yes, because ultimately
the
inside the inside world and the outside world, our inner cosm and the outer cosm, are connected in always. So this effort of this man created that spiritual experience, was part of it. Many other parts, every person who contributed, of course, was a part of this magnificent, futuristic, hedonistic human event that was like, I was coming there only having seen relatively local events in Germany and in Austria, with my 17-year-old, 18-year-old brain. Super deep into the culture. Everybody knew me because I was a poi player, I was an acrobat. So this was why everybody basically also knew me, because I was often on stage also, not as a musician though back then. And then I got invited to Boom Festival by one of my best friends, and it felt like going to the future, going to the pinnacle of human experience. It was like that, I swear to God. Like next level, you know, you go there, you see the highest end fashion, the newest innovations in the psychedelic space, the newest concepts of mind and so forth. And also a phenomenon of 26,000 people in harmony tripping together, facilitated by this contemporary, ancient, futuristic ritual, which is the Psytrance party when it's at its best. I really hope that this culture can be protected. A lot of it already got lost or corrupted. And it's on us, it's on people like me to clean it, to keep it clean, to keep it alive, to keep it a sanctuary for human evolution. It's super important for humanity. The psychedelic experience is important, and therefore those transformative festivals are important, in my opinion. For me, it's nothing trivial. And yeah, so much about the festival.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think Psytrance people, when they are not gathering together, each one of them is in his area of life, wherever he's coming from. He is the one who's vibrating limits in his surroundings, you know? And when all of those people come together, then they meet each other and they become much stronger and they share with each other and then they go back and spread it everywhere. And it's so beautiful to see such gatherings, really.
Exactly.
You can spot a Psytrance member of the family or the tribe anywhere. You would look and you will know, like, and automatically you will be friends. Anywhere, on a train station in the middle of nowhere, you will see this guy and you know this guy, you know.
For sure. There are also like, there are of course markers. But in your country specifically, it was extremely popular. You had, in the high times, what I called the high times, 2006, 2008, etc. You had Skazi running on MTV, okay? Like every day, for example. So there was Psytrance music, was very commercial one at that, but doesn't matter. Running on TV, like also for our audience, imagine that, okay, maybe you don't even know what it is like to watch TV, but Iliad and me, we know, right? You remember?
Yeah. I was young, but I remember MTV. You have to wait for something to show there. You don't have YouTube.
It was very important in. I think I'm a bit older than Iliad, so like it was how music was distributed. It was how music was distributed back then. You had to be on MTV as a AAA musician. Also, Infected Mushroom and stuff like that was also on there. By the way, Infected Mushroom, huge influence musically on me and on the whole community, because those two guys are just like off the charts, legendary, ingenious aliens for sure. Like super high level music. This is really where, you know, they put it to another level with their output, because they didn't adhere to what it was and just put it on a complete new level, basically, with their own very unique vision. For anyone who wants to get into Psytrance and doesn't know Psytrance, you should start there. You should start at Infected Mushroom at Spongel. Why? Because it's designed to give people an entrance point also. Where it's not really hard to understand. If you start with Psycore is so hard, it's so special listener stuff that if you show it to a person who is unfamiliar with it, it probably would sound horrible to them, quite frankly. But this stuff, it's super good. And I listened to it when I was 16. I had this ritual where I was coming home from school and I had a hi-fi system. And I remember I put them literally today, like my studio monitors, in like an angle, you know, on my table. And I put my head in between and I was listening to 1200 mics and to Infected Mushroom and to all of that stuff religiously, like every day. It was amazing.
In every party, you can find the guys who are stuck to the big speaker and literally feeling the air vibrating, and with the psychedelic effect, it makes you feel crazy.
But the crazy thing is that, like, for example, if you have really big speakers and you are going into, because there's those pictures of people crawling into the subwoofers, it's the safest place. In the subwoofer, it's completely safe. Because you don't get any of the highs, and only high frequencies are potentially dangerous for the human ear. You know, like any low frequencies, and specifically bass and sub bass, is absolutely not harmful. The waves are so physically long that they don't pose any threat to our hearing apparatus. They're not even getting perceived by our ear. They're only getting perceived by our...
It's your whole body that vibrates. Your whole body becomes the ear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to say
as
that...
a global movement. Yeah, please.
Just a second before we go to the next topic, I would like to say that, Israel is has produced many great Psytrance artists and very well known in the world. From my perspective, it comes from a little bit unfortunate reason where people here are very post-traumatic and have experienced many hard experiences over the years. And so this music is really healing. So this would be their escape. They would go in the weekends and just release themselves from everything their body and mind have absorbed and going to India and coming back, going to Goa and bringing back the music. And this is really a mission here of healing. It's not just like, I mean, music in general is healing and everything is good, but really psytrance in this case in Israel is very much, this is the topic, like how can we heal from our very traumas,
many heavy traumas, like this is like pain over pain over pain. I have, like, it's the truth, man. It's just the truth. Like, crazy. So psytrance as a global movement. I myself got invited to so many places that it's like, that is already an indicator. It's literally everywhere, also in small places, almost everywhere. There is still places where it doesn't exist, where just like there is no community, but it's, I guess, not that many. The most countries that you would think of have big movements or had them, you know, it's also fluctuating. It goes up and down for various reasons. But I can tell you a couple of places that I have visited: Sri Lanka, Nepal, India, Australia, Costa Rica, America, Mexico, Guatemala, Canada, Portugal, and all of Europe, basically. All of Eastern Europe, Romania, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, of course, Israel, and so many other places. So it is truly a global movement, and it's somewhat differently connected than the techno movement because it's so underground. You know, the only way to become a techno world recognized artist is through official mediums. For example, I never had a booking agency, and I played on the biggest events, on some of the biggest events, and played in so many places and so forth. But I organized that all myself, for the better or for the worse. And it's very much a networked community that is born also out of that ethos. You can say modern psytrance was born in the early 2000s. To be very realistic, okay? Because before it was like, it existed, there was labels like Spiral Tracks and however they all, I forgot the names now, I don't come up with all the different names, but there have been psytrance labels that were quite important in the 90s. And it was unimaginable how expensive, how much worth a psytrance CD was in the 1990s. Let's say you were a label releasing a AAA psytrance or Goa trance CD that would be released into normal stores, okay? Which you could go into London, into a vinyl store, into a record store, and you could buy it. Those CDs were worth millions and millions of dollars, okay? So one track was worth also an immense amount of money because there was no streaming, right? There was not even Napster. Napster didn't exist. There was no MP3 didn't exist as a container, probably. It was not even written yet. There was not... All was in its infancy. The internet was in its infancy. So psytrance came up, and it was like very much informed by the early internet culture of ultimate sharing, of really like, you know, sharing everything, experiences, music, and also like, you know, you could go to forums like Goa Base, very important forum in Germany, which was where you got your information where the next underground psychedelic trance event would be. There was no Facebook
yet. It was very hard to find those places. Man, I remember myself getting lost in woods, trying to listen to the music to see where to go in the middle of the dark.
I just had this weekend, and I was going with a friend who played on the party, and we had to go through the Berlin woods in the middle of the night. I actually recorded it with my Insta360. And we didn't go the normal way. We just heard the music and we saw something like in between the woods, some lights. And we're just like, you know, just directly going inside through like tons of spider webs and stuff like that. And then like arriving at the event from the backside, not from the... actual entrance, so to say. But oh my God, what a beautiful place. So beautiful nature. It was amazing. This is the good thing. So some places where I played was, for example, in a resort on a river in the Nepal mountains near Pokhara. I played next to 3 active volcanoes in Guatemala, of which 2 volcanoes were breaking out while I was playing, like in the highlands of yeah, man. As that was the backdrop for the people. There is even memes about that, because there was like, it was me playing, Frantic Noise, Mubali, and Dark Whisper. So like really a high level lineup, and like in the...
Okay, now it works. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Today is very messy. Check. Yeah, now it should work. I'm so sorry, guys. I was really working so much in the studio. Now it's gone, but it should come back any moment now. And should work. Yeah, I was explaining a couple of things. Oh my God, so awkward. But yeah, that's me sometimes. Can be. Wait, camera. So yeah, so this podcast is I know, like, you know, that I can seem like somebody who is like incredibly convinced of himself, and nothing could be further from the truth. I'm extremely highly self-critical. But it shows the opposite sometimes. Anyway, this podcast that I recorded with Eliade is actually amazing. It's 10 episodes that go increasingly deeper. This is episode 3, what we watched right now. It was incredibly a lot of work. So if anyone wants to support the podcast, I would appreciate if they let me know that the money that they give is for the podcast. Then I can like separate that. I think we originally had a Patreon planned for the podcast, The Sacred In Between. So yeah, paypal.me/Parandroid if you want to support me or also any of my projects, basically. This project is with another person, so I would appreciate if you, like, you know, let me know that it's for that, if that is the case. But I said already that it will be likely not. Nobody will give any money anyway, but I guess, so it's not that important, I guess. But yeah, I have an issue also with like doing amazing work and then not sharing it with the rest of the world sometimes. So I'm sitting on a lot of good music that I produced that I didn't release and so forth. But yeah, let's watch a little bit more of the podcast. Sorry for the randomness.
Highlands with, imagine that stuff, like with volcanoes breaking out in the background.
The planet is dancing with you.
Yes. I played in Costa Rica, in the jungle. I played, of course, in India, in various jungle locations, and of course in the Himalayas. I played at -10 degrees or -20 degrees in the Himalayas just a couple of years ago. The coldest party I have ever played at, where literally everything freezing immediately, and only my super hardcore Indian friend making chillum. And it took him literally 1.5 hours or something like that to make it, because it's so cold. You know, like, it's so cold. I don't know, like, it felt like 1.5 hours. So then in Bahia, on one of the biggest psychedelic trance events ever on planet Earth, Universo Paralelo, I played there. I played in LA just recently. I played in Chiapas, in the middle of Chiapas, not far from Mayan ruins. Like, this is crazy, okay? Like, and this all without even an agency and stuff like that. This can only happen in the psytrance culture, in my opinion. I feel like it. I don't know. Maybe it can, but I doubt it. It's like you will never hear of a techno artist that had the life way that I had. He will have a different story to tell. Also a very exciting one, I'm sure. But
the music is different.
The music is very different.
Techno is very much like more repetitive. In psytrance, when you start listening to a track, you go on an adventure. You are like going like that. You don't even know if it's the same
Ideally,
track because
ideally.
it can be so different.
Ideally,
and it's
ideally.
amazing. It's
Ideally,
really
like,
one of my favorite type of music. And I agree with you also about how it's, you were talking about the global, yeah, how it's like everywhere, like many countries, they like it. I can say that Israel is a small planet, like it's very diverse, many kinds of people, a lot of what to fight about with each other. But Psytrance Party is a place where you can find every kind of people there,
Yeah,
like
it's also
religious people
interesting,
and
yes.
secular and this and that, and they all just like the music. It's wordless music, and people just like the beat, and they dance together, they jump together,
Yes,
and they become one in the stage. It's amazing to be part of it. It's amazing to watch it.
yeah,
It's amazing. It unites us. It unites us,
exactly.
and yeah, it's above all of our little differences. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
everybody,
Really.
it's a great equalizer. We are all the same on the floor in a way. It is a great equalizer. It's not, nothing matters anymore. You can be the head doctor of some important hospital, or you could be even a famous psytrance artist, and it doesn't also matter if you're on the dance floor and just in trance, which is very important. This is what needs to be
Exactly.
protected, is the trance also, which I feel also is getting lost a bit. Nowadays, I see sometimes the parties, people are just going there to have a good time, which of course, nothing against that. Go on, have a good time. But originally, psytrance events is also like it is the experience of trance dance. So to lose yourself in the dance, it's a very important thing to close your eyes and get carried away. And it's a human phenomenon. Trance is something very spectacular if you haven't experienced it yet, because trance has nothing to do with psytrance. Trance is a state. It's a state of human existence, basically, you can say. When I visited all of those different places, I realized that they are very different. For example, the Indian psytrance culture was growing at a very different time than the German psytrance culture. And the same with Portugal, and the same with Brazil. For example, a lot of things that are happening now in Brazil. Brazil is almost like, you can say, like around 10 years late. So all the good things that was happening 10 years ago in Europe are happening there now with a little bit delay. Maybe 10 years is not, you can't really put a number on it, but they're a little bit later because it just happened a little bit later. But it's booming there now. It's crazy how big it is over there. It's just also, Brazil is a huge country with a large amount of people. And for example, Portugal, what I loved about Portugal is always the concept that they have there is to make the events very, very cheap and accessible. So you have more people instead of, like few people that pay a lot. You have tons of people that pay less entry, but overall they still make a lot more money because they will sell food and drink and so forth. So everywhere where you go, it's a bit different. In my place, it was going quite a bit down in recent years. The festivals.
I would say also Portugal has decriminalized all drugs like many years ago. I don't know, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So I guess it's also why it's a little bit easier to be there as a community that consume medicine, drugs, and I think it's easier there.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. In Portugal, that makes it easier. Although, if people are selling stuff, for example, that is never covered by the decriminalization. But as a consumer,
of course,
you are safe.
Exactly.
Actually, on Boom Festival 2006, this was before decriminalization, actually, but it was a wild time. There were people on the dance floor with just those. I forgot what is the name, but basically like a little store that people carry around, like a backpack kind of, but in the front, and they have lots of stuff and they're selling it. I saw people selling things like that on the dance floor, like trucks. But back then nobody really cared. It was like the Wild West, in a way. Yeah, psytrance is ultimately a form of spiritual expression. It is connected, as I said before, to the ancient spiritual practices like shamanism, like meditation, and like trance states. We also call it the trance dance ritual or the trance dance experience, coined by Gil. Unfortunately, Goa Gil now is not with us anymore. He's one of the very important people that bridged the gap from the hippie era into the modern era, and a person that I fortunately had the honor to get to know. He invited me to his 60th birthday, and just a couple of years ago he invited me to the Duni in his temple in Goa and gave me presents and stuff like that. Anyway, that just as a side note. So
I would say also that from the point of view of a yoga teacher, a psytrance party or a dance would count as bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, because that's exactly what it is. You devote yourself into it, you disappear into the music, into the dance, and get connected with everyone in a big ritual. That would be definitely bhakti yoga. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's a very spiritual experience. Yeah.
Yes. To be honest with you, I think we talked quite a bit about the different things. There would be so much more to talk about this, so maybe we can talk about it again with somebody else. That could be interesting, no? Like inviting somebody.
For sure. Definitely.
So I hope that for the people that were watching this video, that it gave them a little bit of an insight into the culture from two guys that both know the culture from different angles. I lived this lifestyle for a very, very long time, traveling the world as a psytrance artist. So it will always be connected to me. As I said in the beginning, it's not the only determining factor for my identity, but it will always be a huge part of my story. And it gave me so much in this life. It gave me the opportunity to get to know cultures all over the world and to get to know myself a little bit and to connect to the human tribe, to understand that we are all one, that we are ultimately one. So I am super thankful for it, and I think it should be protected and preserved and made accessible. Nowadays, in our society, we don't have entheogenic schools, we don't have shamanic schools, where we learn a healthy way of dealing with those very important substances, in my opinion, and should be like that. Normally, when you are like 18, 20, you should be able to go to a shamanic school, officially, legally, and learn about those substances and prepare yourself to take those spiritual journeys. We don't have that now in our society. So for me, the psytrance culture is the second closest thing to this. And therefore, I cherish it a lot. It is basically, if it's done right, and in many cases, it is neo-shamanism. It is there to heal us and to bond us, to connect us, and to make us realize that we are ultimately from one tribe, that we are not that separate after all. And we should be thankful for this little bubble in time where this culture can exist, because we always think that things are going on forever. And hopefully it will. But this is normally not the nature of this universe. Everything ends. And also this culture.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, really. It was super amazing to chat also with you guys, specifically the people that wrote. There was a bunch of people just like tuning in, of course, not writing anything. But thanks a lot, Dominic. And what was the other guy's name? There was another guy. Because yeah, everybody who was joining in basically, and yeah, thank you so much for your support. This means everything to me. Like, you don't even understand how much your support means to me. Whatever that may be, you know. But for the people that understand how much I give, and I have given all my life, I appreciate it deeply. And I will try to come back on live because I really truthfully enjoy it. So yeah, I think we are too short on this planet in this form, in this package, to do things that we don't enjoy. Yeah, definitely. I definitely will do that again. I mean, I want to do a DJ set and like also like streaming. I mean, like stuff like we did now, like watching stuff of myself or whatever it is totally fine with me. The Sacred in Between. Today is the first episode available, and quite frankly, for this project to take off, like if any one of you watches anything of the Sacred in Between and wants to support it, paypal.me/Parandroid, write that it's for the Sacred in Between. Or what you can also do is head over to my Patreon, patreon.com/Parandroid, subscribe there and write me a message that it's because of the Sacred in Between if you want to. Oh, I still have your number. Wow, really? From how do I have your number? Like, do we know each other personally? Like, because I only see like your name here in the chat. So I don't know how I would find the number, bro. But yeah, like this is the issue, organization, right? Like, so yeah, I will really try my best. I'm trying to overcome myself. It's really not that hard after all. So I will try to let you know, but the best is, of course, to stay informed on all my social media channels for that, for sure. I mean, for example, the Patreon, but also the Instagram. Dominic? German Dominic? Hey, what's up? Yeah, that was also so epic, actually. Such a good connection there that we had. Like, or I don't know if you are this guy. But if you're a German guy and we smoked DMT in the jungle together, spontaneously, and I teached you, or not teach you, I showed you the Wim Hof, then greetings to you. And there's actually, it's so funny, there is a video. Hey man, wie geht's dir? Ich hoffe, dir geht's gut. Long time no here. Danke für dein Verständnis, Dominik. Das ist echt nett von dir. Du bist echt ein spezieller Kerl, muss man, also das kann man dir nicht absprechen. Lustigerweise, funny enough, there is a video of me recorded totally in darkness, unfortunately, when I'm watching Back from the Jungle and I just smoked the DMT and I was like super euphoric, of course, because for me, I don't know, most of the time it's such a life-affirming experience to smoke an NDMT. Not condoning that, but to be honest with you, it's one of the it's one of the most beautiful things a human can experience. Literally, if it goes well, of course. Like, humans are complicated, but for me it is, usually. And I recorded myself directly after the DMT trip and, you know, talked to my cell phone on the way back, basically, full of euphoria, saying that I am, like, that I just, you know, met this German guy and, like, I did some, you know, breathwork with him in the jungle and then I smoked DMT with him in the jungle. And yeah, I feel we had a really good connection. I hope you're well. One thing is for sure, that I can be incredibly inept in social stuff. I can just be incredibly inept. And I don't know, like, why that is. Because I'm a lovely person, but, like, I'm not good in this stuff. Like, I mess up social things so often and, like, have people misunderstand me or just position myself or, you know, like, unintentionally hurt people that I don't want to hurt. Like, by saying something or something out of my impulsiveness. that one thing is for sure, that like, yeah, I am as good in creating as I am bad in everything else. Anyway, with that said, I love you. Don't forget that you're beautiful.